achievement. Sometimes it can be a long celebration or a short one, but the message has always been clear. It is a time for reflection, a time for family gathering. It is a time for bringing the generations together. It is a time for bridging the gaps of cultural differences. It is a time for assessment. It is a time for self-improvement. It is a time for planning for the future in our communities and in our churches. It is a time for helping guide those who are misled to our spiritual homes. Celebrating Juneteenth in the correct way unites all folks, not just African Americans. It's also for European Americans, what some people call white folks. It's also for Asian Americans. It's also for Indian Americans. It's also for Native Americans. It's also for other persons of interest and other people who consider themselves to be Americans. Hispanic Americans, gay Americans, everybody that loves and recognizes this country. Know your history. You gotta get with it now. Know your history. Okay, we must keep the tradition alive. We must maintain these inspirational messages. Feasts, community development, parades, barbecues, poetry, music, intellectual competitions, rodeos, park outings, dances, games, fellowshipping, the purchasing of land, and most of all, prayers as we move forward. On January the 1st, 1980, the state of Texas officially made it a state holiday, so know your history. On a special note, my sources indicate that the town of Wilmar, not too far from here, it's in Arkansas, has been celebrating this phenomena as early as 1870. Arguably the longest outside of the Lone Star State. June Dinner, as it was called, has its deep roots in Wilmar, Arkansas. Know your history. Hamburg, Arkansas, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. Since December 12, 1854, this county seat and small community town nestled in the southeastern corridor of the natural state in Ashley County is home to a few notable encyclopediaites. The original son of Hamburg, that is synonymous with championships, that is synonymous with great achievement, is who? Scottie Pippen. I found out that he was from Hamburg about 10 years ago. I was at Grambling State University, and we were watching the finals, the NBA finals, and it was the last NBA title run of the Chicago Bulls. And I had to look it up. I said, Hamburg, I've never heard of this place. And this is before I moved to Arkansas, obviously, because I've been here for about 4 years. And so when I looked it up last week, I saw a picture of Scottie Pippen in the history of Arkansas, in the Encyclopedia of History and Culture. And I saw a picture of Scottie Pippen standing next to who? Michael Jordan. But guess whose picture was in there bigger than Scottie Pippen's? Michael Jordan. So, of course, if I were you, I'd have a beef with that. Scottie's head was like that small, and it was his name in the book, okay? So you might want to talk to the people about that, okay, so they can blow him up. Know your history. Another famous native son of Hamburg was Charles Buddy Portis. Portis was a former American Bar Association president, writer, and a great cook. Politician William F. McCombs, essayist Pat Hoy, and Colonel Van H. Manning, who was a Confederate sympathizer during the Civil War years, and other persons of interest that I failed to mention, they must be recognized too. From West Foot to Washington, from East St. Louis Street to East Parker Street, from Milo Road to Main Street Americana, successful people have always walked up and down the streets of Hamburg in your lifetime. Know your history. From the annals of history, here in Hamburg and communities such as Crossit, to the scientific and scenic backgrounds in Ashley County, we need to highlight what we already know about our towns and communities. Sometimes we look to other towns for celebrities when you have some right here in Hamburg. These two towns were seats to groundbreaking medical and biological demonstrations regarding mosquitoes and mosquito control during the early part of the 20th century. In the middle of World War I, an instrumental role was played, and it was played out in a wave of government funds with regard to anti-malaria projects. Most of these projects were done under the auspices of the federal government, and they had all good intentions, okay? They had mixed results, however. Demonstrations of hookworms and typhoid fever control were also in the works right here in Ashley County 60 and 70 years ago. Now, for those that don't know, if it seems, why is he talking about mosquitoes? I want to mention a little something down and break it down to you. The world's most deadly killer, it's not HIV, okay? The deadliest killer of humanity comes from a mosquito. It's malaria, it's smallpox, it's encephalitis. That small animal, that small creature is responsible for killing more people in the history of the world than all the world wars put together, hands down. So the next time you see a mosquito or look at it, you have to look at it a little bit differently. I'd rather fight a fly off than a mosquito any day. Mosquitoes are killing children right now in third world countries as we speak. They're paying a lot of money for mosquito nets, $1 a piece. Okay, so we take these things for granted. Okay, so keep that in mind as we move forward. Know your history. The citizens of Hamburg have always focused on quality rather than quantity, and nothing else as it relates to the youth in our community. The future is about our youth and the young adults. We must help save them and lead them into the light. It should be the goal of the community here in this nourishing environment. We want, we have, and we need to further produce a greater quality of people in our communities. I know for a fact that right here in front of me, we already have good quality people. Some of us being from different generations, some of us coming from different backgrounds. But it's not always about us. Even when we look in the mirror, we have to look at some of these younger folk around us and know that we have to invest in them because they're our future. When we get old, they're going to be taking care of us. They're going to be running the government. Okay, so we have to make sure that they have those foundations. Communities need to lead and help lead these young folks. This means establishing more intergenerational and multi-ethnic activities as our communities grow. I checked the sources here. I checked the fact books before I came. The demographic makeup of Hamburg is drastically different than it was 20 years ago, okay? As I understand it, we have a lot of Latino Americans and Hispanic Americans moving in and around the community. It doesn't hurt to pick up a second language to identify with what they've been through and what they're talking about, because they probably read up on your history, so it doesn't hurt to read up on theirs as well, okay? In order to help strengthen our communities and relationships in Ashley County, one must get the word out. Get the word out to our county family. Hamburg, Ashley County has already begun the process of finding ways to unite the masses, whether it's in the form of a nationally recognized Armadillo Festival or a Tractor Fest, or in the form of a Juneteenth extravaganza. In our community unity, you can't have a community unless you have what? Unity. Look at the word. The word community has unity in it. That's important as we move forward. Know your history. In the 1950s and 60s, some of America's most recognizable and most powerful men of guidance were preachers, clergymen, pastors, and people of God, men and women.